everyone, it's Alice, and I'm here today to share my best books of 2021. So yesterday's video was my worst books of 2021 and I got a little bit salty, I spilt some tea, I was not holding back. So today I'm ready to gush about some of the books that I loved the most this year, and this was actually really difficult to pick because there were some 4 stars that I wanted to put in here because I loved them anyway. Some of my 5 stars didn't even get mentioned because I've had a really great reading year. I would like to give a very quick honourable mention to You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson because I actually started this 2 days ago and I'm already 3/4 of the way through it, which if you watch this channel regularly you'll know I've been in a reading slump for months. It has been a long time since I've read a book quickly. It has been a long time since I've even really finished many books. But You Should See Me in a Crown is well on its way to becoming a book that I'm going to finish, and I'm really enjoying it. And I don't know whether it will be a 5-star or whether it will be perfect or whether it would have been on this video anyway. But I wanted to give it a quick honourable mention as one of those books that has grabbed me from the beginning and has made me very excited to read again. And that's something that I've really needed this year. I have been doing a little bit of rereading this year, so I reread the first 2 books in the Red Rising series, I reread Strange the Dreamer, and those were all 5 stars, but I'm not going to put those officially in this list because they are rereads. So these are all books that I read for the first time in 2021 and I fell in love with them in some way, shape or form. I'm going to start off with the 3 books that I don't own physically, the first of which is Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend. I've got a feeling that every book in the Nevermore series will be part of my best books of the year list when I read them as they're released, because I just absolutely love everything about the first 3 books in this series. They are getting better with each instalment, they're getting darker, there's a lot of interesting topics that I wasn't expecting to encounter in these books. And I just think they're absolutely astounding. I'm looking forward to book 4 and I'm really glad that I've managed to get Hollowpox read this year. I kind of might pre-order Silverborn even though I'll get it in hardcover, and I normally wait until these come out in the library, so I read them like a year after they come out because I read them as library copies. But I'm just too excited to see what happens in book 4 and I don't want to wait. The next book I'd like to mention is Love Me Not by Holly Smale. This is the 3rd and final book in the Valentine's trilogy, and this was my favourite one. It follows my favourite sister, who is Mercy, and it's a look at grief and depression and the way that people deal with things in different ways, and sometimes the way that someone deals with something can be very... I can't think of how best to describe it without getting spoilery. It's not to other people's tastes. So the way that one person might deal with grief or loss might be very far removed from the way that another person would deal with it. But that's the nature of grief and loss, the fact that we all have very individual experiences with them. And I thought it was interesting to see that explored in a YA series, especially a YA contemporary series that's quite light-hearted. So the concept of the Valentines is that it's the children of Hollywood royalty, and they're all eyes on them, the paparazzi, they're meant to be getting into acting themselves, and it's following these 3 girls as they are growing up in this crazy situation, and they're discovering themselves as themselves rather than just through the lens of being the Valentines. I just love everything about this series. I thought it was fun, but it was also very hard-hitting at times. There are some very difficult subjects touched upon in these ones, and I wasn't expecting that when I started it. In fact, I nearly DNF'd the first one because it was a little bit too sweet and sugary for me, but there's a reason for that. So if you do read the first book, make sure to push through that first half of it because the tone changes dramatically, and books 2 and 3 are sublime. Another contemporary that I really, really loved this year was Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon. This is Nicola Yoon's 3rd novel, and it follows a girl who is completely out of love with the idea of love following her parents' divorce. She decides to donate all of her romance books to a local little free library, and when she's there she finds a book called Instructions for Dancing. And it has directions to a local dance studio, so she goes along, she thinks she'll take a risk and she will learn how to dance, and there she meets a guy and there's a chance that they might fall in love, but I won't let you know about that. But this is one that I really loved as well. It brought tears to my eyes at points, and there were quotes that I was writing down throughout because they were very hard-hitting for me. It's another one of those books that it looks like it's going to be very sweet and sugary and romantic, but then there's a lot of darker topics explored as well, more serious topics going on in here, and I highly recommend this one. Sean didn't love it as much as I did, which I'm annoyed about, because like this was an instant easy 5-star for me. This was easily one of my favourite books of the year. Sean wasn't a massive fan. I don't know if that's just because I'm a bit gushier when it comes to contemporary novels, and he's not that much of a romancy person. Who knows? The next book I'd like to mention is Hold Back the Tide by Melinda Salisbury. This was part of the YA Book Prize shortlist, and I did a reading vlog where we explored all 10 of the books on the shortlist and chose our winner. This isn't actually the one that I chose as my winner. My winner was Melt My Heart by Bethany Rutter. But I'm thinking about this in a writing point of view. I think that this is a better written book than Melt My Heart. I just personally related to the story in Melt My Heart more, which is why I picked that as my YA Book Prize winner. Hold Back the Tide ended up being Sean and my joint winner because we did it a bit like Eurovision when we tallied up points separately and then we added it together, and this ended up coming out on top. And looking back, I think that was the right decision, because Hold Back the Tide plays with folklore, and it kind of brings to life this new mythology that a lot of people won't have heard of, and it's Scottish, and I just loved everything about it. It's another one that made me cry, and not many books do make me cry, she says, having filmed a video very recently about books that made me cry, but this one had me welling up, and I wasn't expecting to get that reaction from it, especially because it is very, very short, but this certainly packs a punch in a very short space of pages. Another book that made me cry, oh what a surprise, it's Death Set Sail by Robin Stevens, which is my favourite Murder Most Unladylike book, apart from Death in the Spotlight. That's always going to be my top, but this is my close second top. This is the last book in the series apart from Once Upon a Crime, which is a short story collection that I still haven't read yet because I'm a slacker and I suck. But I finally read the last book in the series this year, and I cried and cried like a baby from the first page, even though nothing really that sad happens on the first page. I just didn't want to say goodbye to these characters, and I didn't want to say goodbye to this story, and I love Robin Stevens' writing so much that I would have happily followed Daisy and Hazel through about 17 more adventures. And I think it's nice that it's come to an end, because all good things must come to an end, otherwise they turn into Supernatural, and who needed 27 billion seasons of that? But it's still bittersweet. It still hurts me a little bit inside. This one didn't make me cry, but its preceding book in the series did, and that's Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. I finally finished off the Strange the Dreamer duology this year, and Muse of Nightmares was everything that I wanted it to be and more, and it made me really mad at myself for not reading it earlier, because I don't know why I got so scared about the way that this duology was going to end when I should have just trusted Laini Taylor to satisfy me thoroughly. Strange the Dreamer finishes on an extremely intense cliffhanger, and this starts very soon after the first book finishes, but you've also got like a subplot running through this one that I wasn't expecting that really broke up the tension and the drama in a satisfying way. So you get these little peaks and troughs of excitement and intrigue, and you're learning a lot more about the world that this story is set in, and I loved that too. I will recommend this duology until the day I die, and I want to reread it already because I loved Strange the Dreamer both times I read it, and I want to read Muse again so that I can really absorb myself in the story rather than just in finding out what's going to happen. Like, I want to be able to focus on the writing and just enjoy it because I loved this. This was perfect. Another book that was intensely perfect. The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Who is surprised to see this in here? Nobody, because I absolutely love this. I finished this earlier in the month. I actually finished a book, which tells you enough about how good this is, because I was in a reading slump and I finished this. This follows a guy called Linus who goes to this house for magical children in the sea, and he has to investigate them to make sure that they're being looked after properly because they're in an orphanage. And it's just so heartwarming and soul-warming, and I loved it so much, and I want to reread it, and I want to be part of this world, and It's one of those stories when there is drama in here, but it doesn't feel like anything bad's going to happen, and you don't get that same level of tension and discomfort, and you don't have like the high stakes. So it's very cozy and comfortable, and I think this is the perfect thing to read when my mental health was pretty bad, because I just wanted to sink into a book that I wouldn't get hurt by or wouldn't get too invested in, and it would end up biting me on the ass. So it was just nice that I could get invested in a book and just feel thoroughly uplifted. Such an uplifting story. The next book I'd like to mention today is one that I was tossing up whether to include or not, and that's The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan He. This is their second novel, and it's about two sisters and separation and family and finding yourself and so many different things that I can't really say. And I was tempted not to put it on because, I'll be honest, I've forgotten most of what happened. I read it very quickly because I read it as part of the Owl Crate read-along, so we had to read it in a week. And now I'm yawning, which proves how impactful it was. No, I did really, really enjoy it, and I was looking forward to picking it up every day. But I think maybe that quick, speedy, week-long read-along is just not the best for my brain for retaining information. I loved the world. I thought that the idea of this eco city that's up in the sky, and if you're eco-friendly then you get a better apartment and things because you've like proven that you're better for the planet. It was a fascinating concept, and I would love to see more stories set in this world. And I also think that this one deserves to go on here because there's an aspect of the plot that I can't mention because it's very spoilery, but it's an aspect of the book that Sean struggles with. Most books, if they include this specific trope, he predicts it so easily and he knows exactly what's going on, and he gets very bored and restless because he's like, oh, this is just so predictable. But he didn't get that with this one. There were bits that he guessed immediately, but it still had enough twists and turns to surprise him. So if a book can surprise Sean when he's predicted pretty much everything that's going to go on, then it deserves to be on a Best Books of the Year list. My penultimate Best Book of the Year is one that I really wanted to read last year, and that's Felix Ever After by Kason Calendar. Everybody was going on about this last year, and I ended up hauling this gorgeous Waterstones stenciled edge copy and reading it when I just started training at my new job, and I loved it. And I didn't want to put it down, and I want to read this again because it feels like these characters are friends. That is how well written this is. These don't feel like characters, it feels like real people, and it feels like you're stepping into a world rather than just stepping into a story. I loved every single second of it. I thought that there were so many interesting plots going on and so many interesting things being discussed, and it was just the perfect storm for me. All the different things that I like in books, all the tropes that I like to see crop up, all came into this one, and I honestly, like, there were some bits that I predicted but in a nice way, and there were some bits that surprised me and had me really, really happy. And now I'm yawning again. Oh gosh. Don't film late at night, kids. It's exhausting. But yes, I loved this, and I love Felix, and I would like to reread this and possibly buy another copy so that I can annotate the hell out of it, because there are some very inspiring quotes in this one. And I think if I'd read this when I was younger, this would have been a best book that I read over and over and over and over again. It wouldn't have just been a read once and then recommend it to everybody. I would have been reading this over and over like I did with Looking for Alaska, because there's something about it that just really clicks with me. I just love it. I love it. I think it's amazing. Read this book. And this was supposed to be in no specific order, but I've actually saved the best book of the year until last. So the book that I'm holding in my hands right now is the best book that we read in 2021, and it has become a new favourite of all time for me. I think it may be rivaling Red Rising because of how much I loved it, and that is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. None of you should be surprised by this, because since we read Project Hail Mary, I have repeatedly screamed about it on this channel because I love it. It's a cozy space drama, and it just makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside, and like friendship and home, and it's kind of similar to The House in the Cerulean Sea in that respect, because even though it's a race against time to save Earth and all of humanity may die, it doesn't really feel like there's that much drama, and there's not really any high stakes tension intensity. You've still got some stakes and you've still got some tension, but it's not in an unsettling or overly adrenalizing way. It is just cozy and intriguing, but not stress-inducing. And that's just what I need to read at the moment. These books are the absolute best for me, ones like this. So this and The House in the Cerulean Sea are definitely going to be new favourites for all time ever. I haven't read any of Andy Weir's other novels yet, but I really, really want to, because this, as I said, new favourite. I was not expecting to love this as much as I did. I bought this because it was signed on Waterstones and Sean was interested in it, and I thought, it's probably going to be really boring and we'll struggle to get through it and then we'll end up selling it on. No, we read this so quickly. As soon as I started it, the writing style is so conversational and it's catchy and it just makes it so easy to read because it flows off the page so nicely. And we read this in like a week. I just did not want to put it down. I would have happily read it faster if I'd been able to. I just love everything about it and I would like to reread this one too. And so those are the 10 best books of 2021. If you've read any of these and you agreed and you love them too, then please let me know. If you read any of these and you didn't like them, then please let me know why. Like, it would be fun to have a discussion on that. If you'd like to check out my worst books of the year video that went up yesterday, then please click. I should hopefully remember to put that somewhere on the screen, otherwise it'll be down in my recommended or in my recently uploaded. If you like this video, then please like it, and if you'd like to subscribe, we'd be super duper grateful, because we are posting a new video every single day in December, which means we've got 2 more videos left for you. That's it, just 2. And then we'll have a couple of days break, and then we'll be back to our regular schedule of Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays. So please stick around for the Bumbling blogger journey, because we have lots more books to read eventually and talk about with you. Yay! Thank you for watching. Bye! I really need to get to sleep. I'm like way out of frame, Sean. What are you telling me I'm in frame for? Is that better? Yeah, that's better, buddy.